Hello and welcome to week 6 video lecture for the part 1, concepts and assignments. As you can see, week 6 is a little trimmer than the other weeks. I got rid of the readings because they felt a little redundant to me. Some of the other readings might have felt that same way to you. But there were times when my understanding concepts and the readings were different enough that I thought they both kind of complemented each other, or the readings had more detail and expanded upon, the major concepts, so I kept them. But for this week, I felt like they aligned so much that you didn't need both. And so there's only understanding concepts for week 6, and you'll get what you need out of them. That might not happen for every week, but some weeks you might see there's no reading section per se, and that's okay. So if we click on understanding concepts, it has some questions for you to just ask yourself. It's nothing that you have to submit, but it's more like think about how your group experience went, how it could have gone better, could it have been worse, and thinking about how working on a team is different than turning things in on your own. And it's not easy, but in this ongoing online culture that we have here, you're gonna run into online projects again, maybe at USF or maybe in your professional life. So whether or not you enjoyed this experience, the experience itself was worth it, I would say. Another thing to review is USF rights. Now that you're moving from the group project onto work on your own for the rest of the semester, when you turn in a rough or final draft, you're not submitting it to this platform of Canvas. You're going to submit it to something called USF rights. And you might have kind of reviewed stuff about that in week 1. But there's a page here that reminds you what USF rights is. It's a separate website maintained by USF. You do have to purchase access to this other website. And if you're like, why do I have to do this? It is basically where you would see where to upload your work and where I'm going to grade your rough and final drafts. And you could equate it to, you have to buy a textbook for a class. So this is very similar to that. I have to update this actually because other class has their online textbook. Sometimes USF rights is going to have issues. You're going to click it. Sometimes it won't let you log in right away, or it's going to look weird. But you log in using your Canvas login information. And if you haven't yet purchased access, it's going to ask you to do that before you can go to that login page, I believe. And then you're going to see like all your past English courses, if that's applicable to you at USF. And then you're going to see your current ones here, and you're going to look for your ENC one. And then when you go to turn something in, this all looks really weird, doesn't it? You're going to, so we see ENC here. And we know we need to turn in a rough draft, or we have one upcoming for another week. We want to see how it works. You click on projects, and then you click on position paper rough draft. And that's where you would go to submit your paper. And later we see you can turn in your final draft there, analytic exploration for later in the semester, and just a few other things that you're going to submit here. But yes, sometimes it's not going to work. And if that happens, contacting me is not going to help you. I'm not a tech guru. What I would do is try this link with tech help kind of tips. Some steps you can take, something as simple as going to your browser history, clearing it out, closing your browser, logging back in, going to USF Rights. A lot of times that's the issue. I don't know why. And then USF Rights will work and let you upload. Another issue students have is when they go to submit, it doesn't, it lets them log in. They can't even submit sometimes. And that's because they wait until 11:58 p.m. on the day it's due, and everyone else is trying to upload at that same time. And the online traffic is just, the system can't handle it sometimes. I would equate that to, when you have to be at work at a particular time and in advance, if you wait until a certain time, you're going to be late, you're going to be stuck on the bridge or whatever. Don't do that for USF Rights submissions, because submitting it late means you get a 0. I don't care that traffic was bad or whatever, because when you arrive to work late, your boss doesn't care about that either. No excuses for late submissions. Even a tech excuse will not get you out of a 0. What you can do if you have an issue with USF Rights and submitting something is submitting a help ticket to USF Rights, taking a screenshot of that help ticket, attaching that screenshot to an email to me. In that email where you're like, it didn't work, I can't upload it, oh no. You also attach a copy of the draft you're trying to submit. All of this needs to happen before the due date of the assignment. Otherwise, it's still late. If that doesn't make sense, then contact me. But if it's late, if it's 12:01 a.m. and you're emailing me because USF Rights didn't work and, oh no, I did the help ticket, it's already late and you have a 0. So peer review. The peer review is another thing. I'm not laughing at all of that. I'm laughing at probably how that sounded. It's not as complicated and crazy as that, but sometimes the tech things do happen, and I want you to be prepared for that, and you can work through it as long as you work before the due dates. So peer review. You've done peer review, I'm sure, in other classes, but online it can be different because sometimes people feel emboldened to be meaner, and that's not why we do online peer review. It's so that people can review their own work through the context of others and see how they can make it better. So before you do any peer review assignment, I want you to watch this video in which we see 2 girls offering critique to their peers. We see one girl who's kind of really scared to offer any substantive critique, and then we see a girl that kind of maybe offers too much, or her approach at times is too aggressive. I want you to be the median person in there, to be an assertive peer reviewer. Instead of these sorts of ways to start your critique, your sentences, think of how you could make it sound constructive and still get your point across. So we're going to zoom out to look at the peer review assignment. And now that you've completed the group presentation, you're going to go back to that discussion board where there should be 6 different replies from group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're going to pick one of those, and you're going to have maybe this open side by side, because you're not submitting anything to this peer review assignment. This is a placeholder in the gradebook. You're going to hit reply to one of those groups and leave 2 comments for them. If you see one, and you're just choosing the group, I don't care which one you choose as long as it's not your own group. And if you see group 2 has like all the replies, pick another group. Or you see group 6 has 0 replies, maybe reply to them so that every group kind of has some replies. That would be helpful. But you need to offer the 2 comments to the one other group by February 17th at 11:59 p.m. This post is not going to remind you of that. This will kind of remind you of the due date, but again, you're not posting here, you're posting here. And avoid overly praising, because just telling them, I really like that you did this, I really like that you did that, that's not going to help them understand what they could have done better. think of these sorts of things when you're responding to their submission and craft sentences that have examples pointing to things that they could have improved upon. Even though groups are not going to submit like a final kind of version of their presentation, this peer review exercise is an example of the peer review that we're going to tackle in the upcoming position paper and for the analytic exploration. And don't worry about any formatting issues. Just hit reply and do, maybe type in the who you're replying to, even though you're going to be hitting that you're replying, but this just helps visualize it. And then comment 2, and whole sentences that make sense and are specific instead of you could have fixed the proofreading. What do you mean by that? I want an example of you could have fixed the proofreading, comma, for example, on slide 5, I noticed a typo, because that lets them know exactly kind of an example of what you mean. This is 30 points. It's due by February 17th, 11:59 p.m. And that's it for the day 1 stuff. And I'll see you for the next video. And if you have questions, then you reach out.